Hollywood once considered Cybill Shepherd a legend. A face worthy of $1 million, with golden locks that gleam like the sun in the south. The film business was rocked by her initial part alone. She went on to perform at the Golden Globes in subsequent years. She was dubbed a star born to shine more than once. However, she would eventually be consumed by that very attention. Cybill Shepherd went from the height of stardom to the brink of rejection due to passionate but scandalous relationships, an astonishing connection with a married director, and battles with the secret power structure of television. After the cheers died down, she had to deal with something for which there was no script. Terminal skin cancer, unbearable agony, and the isolation of a once popular person who will never be forgiven. I don't understand how a once popular figure might fall from grace. Why did Cybill decide to stop hiding anything at the conclusion of her honest, passionate, and unapologetic journey, as recounted in her biography, Cybill Disobedience? And you're going to find out why she decided to spill the beans. Cybill Lynn Shepherd came into this world on February 18, 1950, in the conservative city of Memphis, Tennessee. Her ancestors were middle class. William Shepherd ran a modest company, while Patty stayed at home to raise their daughter. Terry and William were her elder and younger siblings, respectively, and she was the middle child among three. Cybill was an unusual yet unique name that she inherited from both her grandpa Cy and her father Bill. At some point, it would become a household name in Hollywood. Cybill was noticeable even as a child. She was hard to miss with her striking golden hair, pale complexion, and expressive eyes. However, her charisma and character were more enduring than her physical attractiveness. She stood apart from the other Southern females at East High School. She didn't do nothing while being chased. Those she loved were pursued by her. She would have been subject to suspension had anybody discovered that she had ever skipped class in order to try out for a modeling job. On the other hand, she was detached. Life was created for Cybill to be extraordinary. She competed in the Miss Teenage Memphis pageant in 1966, when she was 16 years old. She made it to Miss Teenage America as the city's representative after winning. Miss Congeniality was a modest but significant distinction she received, even though she did not go to the final round. It demonstrated that there was a really endearing quality about her beyond her appearance. That trait would serve her well in the long run, but it also left her open to abuse at times. Cybill started modeling at a young age, in addition to her schooling. She became Model of the Year when she was only 18 years old. She went from being a high school student in Memphis to being featured on the cover of Glamour magazine and being the face of L'Oreal. A life-altering event occurred with just one snapshot. While waiting in line at the grocery store, director Peter Bogdanovich, who was casting a female lead at the time, seen Cybill's likeness on a magazine cover. He wasted no time in contacting her agency and inquiring about the girl in question. Cybill received an audition invitation for the Last Picture show a few weeks down the road. The part was hers. This marked both her cinematic debut and the first public examination of her personal life. Nobody was there to pave the path when Cybill departed from Memphis. Through her own effort, an uncompromising demeanor, and a defiance of living a substandard existence, she earned everything. However, it was precisely this quality that would eventually make her both a beloved and feared figure in Hollywood. With an amazing premiere, Cybill Shepherd made her cinematic debut. Peter Bogdanovich, the film's director, cast her as JC in 1971. Black and white classic and very daring for its day, Pharaoh stars in The Last Picture Show. The film fearlessly tackled delicate themes such as sexuality, isolation, and the subtle cracks in the armor of West Texas youth. In her now famous naked moment, Cybill portrayed a stunningly gorgeous but clinically frigid young lady. Removing one's clothing in a living room with see-through glass, exposing one's body and emotions. At the tender age of 21, she had already. Despite her lack of expertise in training and acting, Cybill managed to tap into the most basic and important element of filmmaking, her presence. Her first Golden Globe nomination came in the category of New Star of the Year, which was quite an accomplishment for a model in her first film role. The spotlight wasn't only on Cybill, however. Additionally, the movie did. 8 nominations, including Best Picture, were bestowed to the most recent film, which went on to win 2 Oscars. It is often cited as one of the best American films of all time and is still considered a landmark of the 1970s cinematic era. In Cybill Shepherd's opinion, the part of JC when she made her debut, Pharaoh, wasn't only that. For her cinematic career, it was a huge springboard. Hollywood stopped considering her a model-turned-actress after that part. She became known as a phenomenon. Most significantly, she got everyone in the business to notice her. It is not possible to manage all forms of beauty. She went on to star in 1972's The Heartbreak Kid and 1976's Taxi Driver after her breakthrough in The Last Picture Show. Despite her brief appearance in Taxi Driver, her character Betsy, whose cold look was touched with vulnerability, became the fascination of both Travis Bickle and the audience with Robert De Niro. Still, Cybill wasn't done with movies. Since she was a teenager, music has quietly played a role in her life. After she was well established in Hollywood, she followed her second passion, singing. Cybill Does It, her first studio album, was released in 1974, with Cole Porter producing. Tenderness, passion, and undeniable femininity are showcased in this set of timeless jazz songs. Instead of pursuing popular music, Cybill opted for classic jazz, a more challenging style where skill could not conceal an absence of emotion. No, she never became a famous singer. Her music touched the hearts of those who listened intently. Cybill Shepherd continued to produce albums in the years that followed, including Mad About the Boy, 1990, Cybill Gets Better, 1992, and At Long Last Love, 2006. Outside of the studio, Cybill would play at tiny cultural events, jazz clubs, and lounges as an authentic artist, not to make a profit. Although her voice lacked technical explosiveness, it had an unfiltered charisma and an emotional candor that is uncommon among prominent celebrities. She brought music with her onto television as well. From 1995 until 1998, she deftly incorporated her passion for music into the character of Cybill, a comedy. Repeatedly, Cybill Sheridan's ability to go from snark to song, soulfully singing in the middle of ordinary scenes, surprised spectators. It was as if, despite all the chaos, music remained her sanctuary. Cybill decided to put her acting and singing careers on hold to have a family. Clementine Ford, her first daughter, was born to her in the late 1970s. "I could have more parts, but I would never have that time with my kid again," Cybill said in an interview. She took a break from television to raise her family, but she made a triumphant comeback in 1977 with guest spots on shows like Fantasy Island. By that point, Cybill had transformed. She had transformed from the captivating newcomer into the recognizable but enigmatic figure that viewers eagerly anticipated each week. Taking up a job completely new to her in 1985 was a remarkable turning point in Cybill Shepherd's career. A quirky detective firm is managed by Maddie Hayes and her unpredictable partner, David Addison. Maddie is a bankrupt former model. Was Bruce Willis's character. The ABC romantic comedy detective series Moonlighting was the program in question. The show's fast-paced language, comedic elements, and sexual tension made Moonlighting a hit. The writing were crisp and evocative of theater plays. The intense chemistry between Cybill Shepherd and Bruce Willis, "Attention is Taut as a Violin String," was what held viewers enthralled, humorous, alluring, and delicate all at once. Nothing was as simple as clicking a mouse. Their infectious enthusiasm and organic chemistry brought the whole production to a higher level, talents that no acting school could possibly impart. Cybill won 2 Golden Globes for her portrayal of Maddie Hayes in 1986 and 1987, respectively, for Best Actress in a Television Series, Musical or Comedy. The media hailed her as primetime television's golden face at that period. Maddie and David were named by TV Guide as one of the best TV couples of the 90s. As a genre series that became a topic of study in screenwriting classrooms, Moonlighting also helped to enhance American television. Some episodes completely disregarded genre norms, such as one that resembled a musical and another in which characters addressed the audience directly, while others took a more noirish approach. This invention has Cybill at its core. In addition to being a stunning role model, she exemplified strong female characters that were not dependent on men. Moonlighting wouldn't have had its own voice if it hadn't been for Cybill, the creators have said in many interviews. In addition to her acting role, she had a hand in developing the show's characteristic style of rapid-fire, clever, and multi-layered language. Behind the scenes, tension started to escalate, despite Moonlighting's popularity on screen. The tension between Cybill Shepherd and Bruce Willis, the show's iconic co-stars, intensified. Conflicts escalated from minor differences into open hostilities. They were both quite independent-minded and unyielding. In his biography, co-star Curtis Armstrong said that, while Bruce was lauded for being a laid-back man, the high-pressure atmosphere of the program was just as taxing on both of them. In a candid interview years later, Cybill said bluntly that men are seen to be decisive when they shout, whereas women are referred to as divas when they speak up. At the same time, Cybill fell pregnant with twins, which slowed production. However, instead of acknowledging the delay, the media held her responsible for the show's waning popularity. At the same time, Bruce Willis's schedule and priorities changed as he became a star with the Die Hard series. Because they could hardly look at one another when they weren't filming together, the sexual tension that existed on screen started to evaporate. They also shot together less often. The last several seasons were the breaking point because of how stifling the creative and working environment became. Official cancellation of Moonlighting occurred in 1989, after it had been praised as a groundbreaking television show. Cybill seemed to have achieved new heights, made the switch from cinema to TV, and won back-to-back Golden Globes from the outside. Still, she had to deal with sexism, pressure, and the usual conflicts that arose with her co-star even while filming. Strangers began to share the screen with someone who had been the ideal on-screen companion before. The stresses of Moonlighting are not something she regrets, she stated at one point. The screen wouldn't have had the same sense of realism without them. Yet, the cost was exorbitant. Additionally, Cybill Shepherd had a good understanding after working as a moonlighter. An ominous cloud accompanies every achievement. The shadow cast by a spotlight is proportional to its intensity. The 1995 season saw Cybill Shepherd's triumphant comeback to television. She was completely free to express her creativity this time. The comedy Cybill followed the life of Cybill Sheridan, a middle-aged actress in Hollywood who had a brief fame but is now struggling to raise her children, deal with casting calls for parts that often include a mother-in-law, and fight against the industry's growing fixation with youthful talent. The persona, according to Cybill, was, simply speaking, what I used to suppress. The lady whose reaction it was once celebrated for her beauty but subsequently disregarded when her star began to wane. In addition to starring in the program, Shepherd was involved in producing it, writing scripts, and guiding its overall tone and message. And she was victorious. Cybill went viral because it gave a voice to issues that American television has always shied away from discussing: infidelity, midlife sexuality, the double standard in Hollywood, the pressure to keep up with younger actors, being a single mother, and the silent loneliness that many women experience. Critics compared her to Lucille Ball, but with a feminist twist. They said her performances were serious satire. Those 1990s Lucille Balls. Accompanying Cybill and winning Best Supporting Actress was Christine Baranski, and the show also earned Cybill her third Golden Globe. Throughout its first 3 seasons on CBS, Cybill was a top 20 most watched show and garnered 12 Emmy nominations. Cybill was influential in culture in addition to the business world. It set the stage for subsequent shows that prominently featured older women, such as Big Little Lies, Grace and Frankie, and The Good Wife. During an interview with SiriusXM in 2018, Christine Baranski said that Cybill's rejection of a sexual attempt from then-powerful CBS CEO Lee Moonves contributed to the show's untimely cancellation. While having a private meal, Moonves had a few drinks and offered to drive her home. Politely but firmly, she refused. Despite the contract, he soon started making excessive demands, meddling with the show's substance, and then abruptly ordered its cancellation. Many years later, Moonves was compelled to step down after being accused of sexual misconduct by many women. After years of neglect, Cybill's tale emerged as a poignant illustration of the patriarchal systems that had long suppressed female actors in Hollywood. Even though Cybill Shepherd never got an apology, she also never waited for one. If she had agreed that night, maybe Cybill would have continued for a few more seasons, she once remarked in a public speech. I didn't come here to give up my pride for further comedy episodes, however. Cybill Shepherd's television career peaked between 1985 and 1995, although it wasn't her only successful period. A remarkable cinematic career had already been created out of her before she became the primetime queen of the 80s. Her roles in Taxi Driver, 1976, and The Heartbreak Kid, 1972, demonstrated that she was more than simply a lovely face. She has the acting chops to subdue her feelings and play them with pinpoint accuracy. Following her groundbreaking debut in The Last Picture Show, that time served as her assertion of value, proving that Cybill hadn't been fortunate. After taking a break to have a family, she subtly made a triumphant comeback to television in the early 1980s with guest appearances on shows like Fantasy Island, 1983. The return wasn't spectacular, but it did pave the way for the breakthrough in Moonlighting 2 years down the road. Concurrently, Cybill began a new journey, the path of music. Although her 1974 first jazz album failed to chart, it revealed a different side of her, one who was patient, steadfast, and unconcerned with passing fads. Shepherd continued working even after Cybill was cancelled. Despite her lack of prominent parts, she persisted in acting and left a mark on screen, particularly in her portrayal of a lesbian mother in The L Word. Guest starring in shows like No Ordinary Family, Criminal Minds, and Psych, she had a busy 2000s. Cybill Gets Better, 1992, and At Long Last Love, 2006, were released by her at the same time as other jazz albums. Continually honed, never compromising on quality for the sake of quick sales. Cybill wasn't defined by a single event, as her whole path makes evident. Whether her work was magnificent or modest, silent or boisterous, it was always an example of her resiliency as an artist. In her own unique manner, she radiated, burnt, and then radiated again. Cybill Shepherd had a modest beginning as a teenage model attempting to get into the entertainment scene before she became renowned with The Last Picture Show. She spoke of her time in New York studying art and anthropology in her book Cybill Disobedience, where she came to feel that shame surrounding nudity was a product of culture. Because of this conviction, she took a life-altering step by accepting the part of JC as seen on The Last Picture Show, performing a part that had a provocative naked scene. She was in a relationship with John Bruno, a rich restaurateur who was passionate about Ferraris and a master chef at the time. But he was rather direct when he told Cybill, "If you do that scene, I'll never marry you," after learning she was about to do a naked scene. They split up not long after that. It set the tone for Cybill's relationships going forward, following her heart no matter the cost. Cybill Shepherd's first real acting friendship was with Jeff Bridges, whom she met on set of The Last Picture Show. They immediately became fast friends outside of work, and she gushed about him as a beautiful guy, a kind, friendly, and likable co-star. Although there was no official contract, the connection went beyond that of a simple business partnership. She felt a genuine connection for the first time when she ventured into the unknown Hollywood landscape. Unfortunately, Jeff had to leave the group for a week in order to report for reserve training. Director Peter Bogdanovich, whose wife Polly Platt was expecting their second child at the time, filled in for her during that brief absence. He announced Jeff's departure. "My loneliness is constant," Cybill said simply. Bogdanovich was an older, strong, and sophisticated director. She didn't deny her attraction to him, and he didn't think twice. After Jeff got back, Cybill spilled the beans. Bridges remained calm. Caution is all he stated in a soothing tone. In that serenity, however, Cybill seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. A choice had been taken that could not be reversed. Bogdanovich was her partner for 8 years. As a golden couple and the most scandalous in Hollywood, they lived together, created movies, and sashayed through the industry. After Bogdanovich abandoned his family, Cybill was unfairly accused of being a homewrecker, a reputation she would maintain for the next decade. However, the connection was everything from straightforward. Tragically, their love was also a source of pain for one another. Bogdanovich was having an affair in Singapore while shooting St. Jack. Cybill paid a visit, was well aware of the situation, but said nothing. Contrarily, she was also unfaithful. She made their identities clear in her book. A waiter, an employee, and Charles Grodin, who co-starred with her. "It was never until dawn that she had a conversation with Grodin," she said. From the perspective of those on the outside, Cybill seemed to have heaven sent. Notoriety, a renowned director on board, and professional assent. Yet there remained an emptiness on the inside. "I don't think I was cheating on Peter," was one of her earlier writings. You can't cheat on someone you never really had, right? Passion and torture, freedom and jail, a glimmer of greatness and the seed of isolation were all parts of her relationship with Bogdanovich. Despite catapulting Cybill to fame, it hung over her in her career for a very long time. Cybill spent the night with Elvis Presley, a guy she characterized as sweet like perspiration and honey, unlike the fake perfume of other celebrities, while her relationship with Bogdanovich was falling apart. It was a one-time event, but it made an effect. According to Cybill, Elvis shifted his perspective on sex from an unusually conservative one. But she did mention that Cybill dated Don Johnson at the time when they were shooting The Long Hot Summer. According to her recollection, "We spent a split second on the porch before rushing to go into bed." However, Johnson had an affair with a hairstylist on set after a performance she likened to devouring sweets in a flash, rapturous, powerful, and brief. Cybill had an unsolved affair with Bruce Willis while filming Moonlighting. It was clear that they clicked. Even when they kissed off camera, the romance never materialized. She said that Willis would force a massive camel tongue into my throat during sequences when we were kissing. Cybill finally put an end to her string of short-lived relationships in 1978 when she wed David Ford, whom she had met while still seeing Bogdanovich. Clementine was born to them in 1979. Because of Ford's adultery, the marriage terminated in 1982. Bogdanovich threw a crystal ashtray at Ford after an altercation between the couple at a dentistry clinic. Ford earned just $15,000 from the divorce settlement, while Cybill was awarded full custody of their kid. While pregnant with twins, she wed chiropractor Bruce Oppenheim in 1987. While she was getting treatment for her back issue on set of Moonlighting, they crossed paths. She went right back to work after the wedding. The honeymoon did not occur. The parents divorced a year after the twins were born. Robert Martin, a musician and co-star of the Cybill comedy, lived with Cybill from 1994 to 1998. The bond between them was like an unofficial marriage, according to her. Disagreements over politics and philosophy led to their eventual breakup. Martin couldn't embrace Cybill's ideals. She was a vocal feminist and progressive. Andrei Nikolaevich, a jeweler-turned-therapist, was born in Serbia and became Cybill's engaged in 2012. Their union was barren. Cybill recommitted herself to her Christian beliefs after the split. "It was like if my heart had been shattered," she said. "A portion of it also refused to mend. I prayed to Jesus at that moment." Cybill Shepherd had undergone painful relationships while being a lady who previously loved without reservation. However, such events also molded a fearless and multifaceted lady. Never shied away from speaking what many others were too afraid to. Still, Cybill Shepherd endured criticism, controversy, and expense because she lived her life as if love were everything. However, is love limited to emotions alone? Or should logic and ethics also be considered? When faced with a choice between acting on impulse or considering the consequences, which would you choose? Despite the scandals that plagued her life, Cybill Shepherd was an incredibly natural mother. She brought up 3 kids by herself after 2 unsuccessful marriages. Children from her first marriage to David Ford include Clementine, and from her second marriage to Bruce Oppenheim, she had twins, Ariel and Cyrus. Despite her troubled professional life and internal struggles, parenthood remained her rock for a long time. Being a mother is an authentic role, unlike acting, which can often seem like a performance, according to Cybill. She startled readers with her memoir Cybill Disobedience in 2000, when her life reached a calmer period, with its honesty, rawness, and determination to hold back. With all the resentment, heartbreak, and carefree youth, she detailed every connection in it, from Peter Bogdanovich to Elvis Presley to one-night stands. Despite her demonization by the media, the book was an enormous success and a means of self-emancipation. "I was a terrible girl, but I'm not sorry," she wrote. "I adhered to the period in which I grew up, and I know I'm not alone." Still, none of her wild years prepared her for the string of losses that followed. Her father died in 2001, her sister Terry in 2009, and by 2012, her mother, the rock of her life, also passed away. The series of losses in such a short span sent Cybill into free fall. "I used to think I was invincible, but that's when I learned I was just as fragile as anyone else." Her sole source of support. Her offspring. Despite being out of the limelight, they inspired her to get back up and keep living. She had a new type of turning point in 2014, one that was embraced with gentle joy. She gained grandparent status. Eliza Laytonsohn, creator of the Sloan and Tate Fashion Company, was married to her daughter Ariel. Cybill wasn't just there for the joyous wedding, which was full of love and liberation. The whole audience couldn't help but chuckle as she toasted with a hilarious quip. "There has never been love this pure," she said as she embraced her daughter and daughter-in-law. Cybill Shepherd went from being a symbol of defiance to a mother and grandma who experienced firsthand the independence she had battled for her whole life. Embracing love, falling, losing, and getting back up again is a beautiful thing. Beaming as she saw her daughter's aisle. Cybill Shepherd endured the terrible hardships of aging and disease despite her legendary beauty, which included blonde hair, blue eyes, and perfect complexion. Dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans is a severe and uncommon skin cancer that she was diagnosed with in 2001. She first chose to keep her treatment a secret after discovering the tumor on her back, but in 2004, as she was about to enter her 3rd year in remission, she decided to speak out. According to what she told the Irish Examiner, "It alters your whole life. If I am able to survive until the 3rd year, I will not have cancer in January." Every time she has had a screening since then, the results have been negative. Not just that, however. "My doctor told me I was imagining my agony when I informed him about Cybill's 20 years of undetected irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. She remembered that they had told her it was all in her brain. She suffered from persistent constipation, terrible cramps, and bloating for 20 years. She was so unprepared for how her body would swell that she put on a new clothing every day. The condition was only detected appropriately after locating a new doctor. Following this, Cybill took on the role of spokeswoman for the Great Women Initiative, helping people, particularly women, understand irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, and constipation. She was quite forthcoming with her narrative at medical gatherings and on television. "My go-to question when I meet a new set of people at a gathering is always, 'How's menopause treating you?' No one moved, yet I felt no embarrassment. We should discuss these matters." She had a breakdown in 2007 after suffering an unexpected flare of stomach pain. Cybill knelt on her hands and climbed down the steps to summon assistance after collapsing. According to her, I truly thought I was dying in the ambulance. Paradise slipped from my body. Months of recovery followed her 4 abdominal operations. Cybill told me that I should stop lying about my age when I'm 55. Without the need to perform flawlessly on red carpets or avoid paparazzi, her life has never been more authentic. Albeit clearly Cybill Shepherd. She was a strong lady who spoke up about the things no one else dared do, despite the fact that she was hurting and yet bore the weight of her renown. Embracing delight, new experiences, and even danger has become second nature to me as I've gotten older, she once stated. She does not provide a rosy or inspirational picture on social media. Rather, she shares grandchild images with brief observations such as, "I used to be an icon. Now I'm a survivor." She also frequently participates in women's health campaigns, speaking openly about her 2-decade misdiagnosis with IBS, the near-fatal abdominal pain in 2007, and her long-term battle with skin cancer since 2001. It's not hard to see. Cybill Shepherd is no longer someone Hollywood wants to keep, but she doesn't need anyone to keep her. She has chosen to live in a way that's true to who she is, unbound, unpretentious, and relentlessly honest. At 75, Cybill Shepherd no longer acts regularly, nor does she appear on red carpets, but she hasn't disappeared. She's simply chosen a different way to exist, quietly, just enough, and free from the industry that once lifted her up only to later try to drown her. She lives alone. In a small house in Encino, Los Angeles, a space calm enough for reading, writing, and listening to jazz. Though her health isn't what it used to be, she still keeps a routine of morning walks with her assistant, occasionally spotted in local supermarkets. No makeup, no effort to hide her age. In February 2025, she surprised many by returning to the stage for a performance at Catalina Jazz Club, singing in a show titled Queen of the Lucky Club, a quiet declaration. She's still here, still singing, still connecting with her audience on her own terms. Cybill no longer takes new scripts, but she still makes appearances at special events, such as the 40th anniversary of Moonlighting in early 2025, not to indulge in nostalgia, but to remind people that television once gave women a voice that was real and unfiltered. Cybill Shepherd was too beautiful to be ignored, too outspoken to be comfortable, and too free to be controlled. She never hid her scandalous romances, and she never conformed, because to her, freedom was the only true form of happiness. From film to television, from the bold girl in the Last Picture Show to the leading lady who ruled primetime and Moonlighting, Cybill lived fully. And always accepted the price that came with it. At this moment in her life, she has found what truly matters. I don't need Hollywood to remember me. I just need to live without hiding. Would you dare to live honestly, love fearlessly, and make mistakes if it meant risking your reputation and your entire career like Cybill once did? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe this story deserves to be heard, please like, subscribe, and share this video. See you in the one. But enough to show some imprints continue, even without fanfare. To those who truly understood her, like Tippi Hedren and Dakota Johnson, Cybill was never just a former beauty icon. She was a woman who had lost her way, made mistakes, but never lost her sense of self. She didn't hide from her past, didn't shy away from failure. She moved forward with the courage of someone who knew she had nothing left to lose but herself. Even though her career wasn't spotless, Cybill chose to give in places where no cameras rolled. She raised funds for her mother's Shambhala Animal Preserve, supported programs for burn-injured children, and quietly gave to charity the same way she quietly battled illness, without applause, just with purpose. She also ventured into production, co-founding Green Moon Productions with Antonio Banderas. The company didn't make waves, but for her it wasn't a failure. It was a serious attempt to claim creative control, something she had long craved in a career marked by being directed rather than directing. Perhaps most strangely, Cybill is also remembered for her uncanny resilience, nominated for the Golden Raspberry Awards a staggering 7 times and even winning. She didn't get angry or deny it. She embraced it as part of the showbiz game. If you want to play leads, you have to stomach the flops. No one else carried failure on their back and kept going quite like she did. That, too, is a kind of strength. Cybill Shepherd may not be a role model for everyone, but she's the image that those who have fallen, made mistakes, or been cast aside can look to and understand. Living truthfully still matters, even if it takes an entire career to prove it.